So next up, we have Scott Fisher from Team Cymru, and you've got about 10 to 15 minutes.
All right. Well, I only have 2 slides, so we'll see if I can even fill up 10 minutes. So if people don't know me, how do I do just hit play? Green. All right. So I've been at Team Cymru for 14 years. I spoke last at NANOG on the security track, talking more about residential proxies. I learned my, I wouldn't say mistake, but just audiences when we talked about the whole track with security or residential proxies. I talked more about the Chinese state-sponsored like orb networks, the Chinese APTs. Someone gave me the kind feedback of SEP, somebody else's problem. Residential proxies being like, it doesn't impact operations, so let's move on. The Aisuru Botnet definitely is everyone here's problem because it definitely impacts operations, but it is also in line with the residential proxy world. So let's start talking about the stuff. So I always like to credit all the research people because nothing in the cyber threat intelligence is done in a vacuum or by one team. It is by tons of people that all dedicate and everyone builds off of it. So I'm going to be quoting some stuff from Roland. I'm going to talk about Chris Krebs quite a bit. So everything that I want to talk about has been publicly available, but I'll add a little my opinion or observations as well. So the Aisuru Botnet, if you haven't heard much about it, it started as a minor, small botnet, mainly of CPE equipment and IoT devices, and it started with maybe a couple terabits per second about a year and a half ago, and has grown to well over 30 terabits per second. It is massive, and the reason why is because it's using this like idle consumer bandwidth that's just sitting there. Yeah, I personally use Frontier. They sell up to 7 gigs symmetrical for every people in their territory, especially in Florida. No one's going to notice if a couple of those gigs are used to DDoS someone. So I'll say, like, what we've observed, most of these attacks are direct. They are actually not amplification attacks by any means. So it's very easy for us to start tracking the infected hosts that are actually making up the botnet because we're not having to look at resolver logs or mapping things back to links and things like that. So huge. These attacks take maybe a couple minutes. They don't last too long. A lot of the targets are things that I wouldn't say the kiddies do, but like Riot, Steam, Roblox, a lot of the typical stuff. But then I think there's other more enterprise-minded services available that have been hit. TCP, UDP are part of it, but it's still directly part of the or from the CPE equipment. So the problem though is, like most cybercrime stuff, it is now available for hire. So it's not just like one team stood this up and they're using it. They're selling off this access to for use case or for different uses. If you look at the Brian Krebs articles, he actually came out with an update today. So I didn't update the slides for it, but I'll talk a little bit about it. But the actors that are running these or originally set it up are well known. There may have been some action taken, but some are still out there. One that is, I think, based in Sao Paulo. He also owns a DDoS mitigation service that he sells access to or your service to. So definitely double dipping on both sides, right? So this is where things get a little muddy in the cybercrime world, but obviously they're criminals, right? So just want to really bring up the point of like 30 terabits a second. I put 4 gigapackets or billion packets. I've heard debates of people of talking about how they want to have that labeled because they prefer BPPS rather because they see that and they think like gigabytes or something. Anyways, so how have people in the tracking world, what's been the mitigation so far? Because I've talked to some people that have gotten hit from this botnet within the past week or two. And it's one of those early stages of a investigation where it's like, well, whack-a-mole, let's start no routing things or something like that. The problem though is that is a very temporary fix because as soon as they identify that or change their techniques, they're just gonna keep hopping around, which is what's pretty much happening. But if you're a tier 1, tier 2 transit where that helps mitigate the amount of communication from the infected hosts to the controller, which then directly lowers the amount of bandwidth that is going to be used in an attack. So if you're an enterprise network, you don't care about the C2s as much as you care about the bots hitting you. If you're actually more an actual ISP, you're going to be more worried about, hey, let's start blocking the C2s because that lowers the impact overall for the community, right? So that's the current problem. But talked to lots of people that have been involved in this investigation. There's not a lot of money in DDoS. You take someone down for a bit. They may spend a couple bucks for this, but in the next slide, I'll kind of show like what this like botnet kind of looks like, because it doesn't just look like a botnet. Well, it looks like a botnet, but it doesn't look like the typical one just used for DDoS, because this is like a little force graph that I made that shows the magenta little nodes. It's going to be really hard to see, but those are the C2s. These are all the other colors are just different versions of like bots based off flows, but you'll see certain types of nodes that those are kind of wrapped around a C2 that is usually more exclusive to that C2 because they're running multiple C2s at a time. And then everything, all those little colors in the middle, those are shared bots that talk to all the C2s within a day or so. So if you actually, maybe can you restart that video? I don't know if it's possible. Or and just pause it there. That might give it a better view. But yeah, so you kind of see the relationship, because if you're running a botnet based off DNS, you have a bunch of bots that are going to look at whatever cache to answer. They're going to stick to that one IP address for a certain amount of time. They look like sticky to that certain C2, but we see over time that there's a bunch that are shared between them. And then they're going to change to a different IP the next day and the next day as this botnet evolves, right? So, but not a lot of money in that. But as you see, they are multiple hops to connect to lots of stuff, which looks like a residential proxy network, which is what this thing has really migrated to. So kind of going back to everyone's problem now to someone else's problem. May not, as money is obviously an incentive for these guys to make money off of this access to a very large residential network with lots of bandwidth. We'll probably see this kind of, well, we'll see what happens. But that doesn't mean the problem went away. It just means it goes dormant, right? So that's my fear with a lot of things. It's like, well, it stopped. We haven't seen it for a while. Let's move on to other tasks. And then later smacked off the planet again with another, 40, 50, 60 terabit DDoS for 5 minutes or whatever. So I will say, like this is the end of the presentation. There's not like a and what. I just want to share there's a lot of people that are working on this. If you have questions that I maybe don't want to answer, that's going to be on YouTube later, feel free to hit me up. I could probably answer a lot more one-on-one as well.